Hey everyone, welcome back to the Entrepreneur's Essentials. I'm going to be recording chapter 20 today on capturing the history of your amazing journey. And that's on my mind as I wear this Data.World t-shirt. This is one of our latest on how we are getting to repeatable go-to-market fit. This is described very well in an Andreessen Horowitz podcast on the topic. Which is one of my favorites. I've lived that journey several times now with my own SaaS companies as a co-founder and CEO, but also with many SaaS companies that we've invested in. And speaking of which, this chapter is on my mind because one of our team members, who's just fantastic, is leaving us to start his own company today. And that brings to mind when Bizarre Voice was about to go public, my prior company. A reporter from the Austin American-Statesman asked me, what are you going to do if all these people start leaving you and start their own companies, prior to you or after you going public? To which I replied, that would be amazing. That's kind of the whole point. That's the ripple effects of capitalism. And one of the things you realize in that is it really all is about the journey and how you share that journey with each other. So here we go as we dive into chapter 20, capture the history of your amazing journey. For this lesson from the Entrepreneur's Essentials, I'm in a very reflective mood today. So I want to revisit a simple lesson, one that is easier to live today than any other I'll share in this book. It is all about the importance of taking photos along the way in your entrepreneurial journey. When you look back on these photos, especially after you've accomplished a lot in your journey, you'll remember them like you would a beautiful vacation that you had with your family. At Data.World, we've had powerful camera phones since our beginning in 2015. So taking photos has been easy, and I've made sure to set the tone as our CEO by sharing these in our history channel in Slack. It was one of the first channels we created in Slack, and it is really amazing to go back to the beginning of our journey and see the historical journey that has been captured since. There are many gems in there, including a screen capture of the text I sent to Matt Lessig and John Loynes, asking them if they would like to brainstorm ideas with me. Thankfully, they said yes. And then Brian Jacob, our fourth co-founder at Data.World, got involved pretty quickly after and has been an amazing addition to our founding team. Some of these photos I've shared publicly, as I did in my 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year summary post since we came out of stealth and went live on July 11th, 2016. And my links to those posts are here in Medium. So here we go with this lesson from the Entrepreneur's Essentials. It was first shared at lucky7.io on May 7th, 2013. I hope this simple lesson motivates you immediately to start documenting your journey if you haven't already. As the founder or CEO, your team will mimic your behavior, and you'll build a better, more soulful company because of it. I made a few edits to the original post below, mostly in the area of readability, not in substance of content. If you want to build a strong company culture, then you should care about the people in your company almost as much as you do family. That was my goal at Bizarre Voice as our CEO. Read Chapter 14, 7 Lessons Learned on the Journey from Founder to CEO. And I deeply thought about how our family showed that we care about each other. One thing we're particularly good at in our personal lives is taking photos while we're on vacation. My wife, Deborah, is particularly good at this and meticulously puts together photo books after each vacation, which we very much cherish. We want to document this very important time we spend together, and we know that our children will only be this age once. This is a natural practice for most families, especially those with young kids, as their appearance changes so much from year to year. So why should it be different for companies? After all, you are on a very important journey together. Your company journey is your livelihood. It gives you the means of having other journeys, such as vacation time with your family. You may want to read my Lucky7.io post on what Benjamin Franklin could have meant when he said, "Time is money." And I link to that here on Medium. You are doing something that many others say is impossible. It is no different than preparing for that climb to Mount Kilimanjaro, which a few brave souls from Bizarre Voice recently completed to raise money for an important cause. Of course they took a lot of photos. It was a journey of a lifetime, and they wanted to remember all of it. Shouldn't it be the same for companies? Isn't that a journey worth remembering? Brant Barton, my Bizarre Voice co-founder, and I thought so, and we took a lot of photos along the way. So did great people like Oliver Wong, Tung Nguyen, and Nishant Pathia. Brant and I owe a lot to those three for selflessly spending so much of their time at company events to take photos. And as our CEO, I encouraged them to take more every chance I got. And when you take these photos along the way, something magical happens. And it isn't all that different from what happens when you come back from your family vacation and put together that all-important photo book. You look back at your vacation and you remember it being even better than you thought it was when you were there, don't you? The magic is that you start to care about the journey more than you ever have. And the entire company will model you in this regard. You get a real sense of creating legacy together. And as you achieve new milestones, as your baby, in this case the infant company, grows up into a child, the young company, and finally a young adult, the public company that Bizarre Voice is today, you have so many photos to look back on and remember the way it was. A note of caution though, as the CEO, you cannot just reminisce about the past. You always also need to be celebrating the best of the present and looking towards the future. The whole journey matters, not just the journey as an infant and child. You're always creating memories, and for those of you that just joined your company, their journey is just the beginning. The most popular optional presentation in Bizarre Voice's history was the history presentation that Brant gave. The room was always packed, standing room only, and the slideshow was full of photos and the many stories of the Bizarre Voice infant and child journey along the way. Why packed? Because people that are on the journey with you want to have a sense of its origins. When you start, or where you start, often leads to where you end up. And I believe there's an entrepreneur in all of us here in America or elsewhere in places like Israel, as I wrote about in chapter 9, how and why to ask for help. So treat your company like you would your family. You don't have to love it like you love your spouse or your children. That frankly isn't the right way to look at it, and family is forever. But you should love it immensely, and you should model the same practices you have as a family to nourish the soul of your company. A good best practice as the founder is to try to remember to take your camera, now even easier with mobile phones having such high quality cameras built in, out every day and take a few photos and be explicit with everyone in your company about why you are doing so. Tell them you want to remember this time in the company's history forever, that you will cherish these memories and you hope they do too, that the journey is what counts the most and you will not take it for granted, that everything in life, money, fame, or whatever, is not in the same league as the journey, that when you're much older and looking back at the life you lived, you'll remember the journey the most. Founders, cherish the journey. respect it, document it. To close, I have 2 photos to share with you. One is from my Bizarre Voice blog post celebrating 1,000 client brands from 2015, 5 years into our journey back then. And it is the oldest photo I have of me and Brent starting Bizarre Voice together. And I, of course, include this photo here on Medium. It was taken in May of 2005 in David Powell's office space in Austin. They're now called Bridgepoint Consulting, and I link to them here on Medium. Bob Smith and Jerry Beulah were kind enough to give me and Brent 3 months of free incubator space back then. There was no Capital Factory, Incubation Station, Tech Ranch Austin, or Dream at Austin back then. I wrote about the state of tech entrepreneurship in Austin in this Lucky7.io post, and I link to that here on Medium. And another is the most beautiful photo that I saw Nishant post on his recent climb with the team to the peak of Mount Kilimanjaro. And it's just gorgeous. You have to look at this here on Medium. Revisiting this lesson makes me more committed than ever to make sure to continue this practice at data.world. I need to do a better job and have missed a few key moments recently. How about you? Do you already have a practice documenting the journey at your startup? What are your most cherished photos and memories so far? Do you need to recommit to this simple practice? Note, this was originally posted on my blog at Lucky7.io, where I've been writing about primarily entrepreneurship since 2012. The original post is there, along with an interesting comments thread, and you can see that link here on Medium and read it. I also want to give a shout out to Daniel for starting his first company, and I'm wishing him the best of luck with that. And when I asked Daniel about, he brought up recently that he had read my book, and I asked him what his favorite chapter was, and he actually said this was his favorite chapter, which makes me that much more proud to read it to you today.